Let me start with a simple question. If I asked you how much money you need before you can buy your first home, what would you say? 20%? That's what most people answer, and for years, they were convinced it was true. But what if I told you that this belief has caused thousands of people to delay buying a home for years, when they may have already had enough to get started? And that's only the first surprise. Today, we'll compare the UK and the United States to uncover 5 facts that most first-time buyers never hear. One of them sounds almost unbelievable. In some cases, you can buy a home without paying any deposit at all. Stay with me, because each fact is more surprising than the last, and by the end, you'll know exactly what advice could save a first-time buyer thousands. Let's begin in Britain. For decades, people have repeated the same advice. Save a 20% deposit before you even think about buying. It sounds sensible, but today, it simply isn't true. Many first-time buyers can purchase a home with just a 5% deposit. Think about that for a moment. On a £200,000 home, many people assume they'd need $40,000 in savings. In reality, they may only need $10,000 to begin the process. That's a $30,000 difference, and it's one reason so many people wait longer than they need to. Now, before you celebrate too much, here's an important twist. While 5% can get you through the door, banks usually reward larger deposits with lower interest rates. So, saving 10% instead of 5% can often reduce your monthly payments over the life of the mortgage. Now, here's a question for you. Where do you think first-time buyers pay the biggest deposits in the UK?
If you guessed London, you're right. The average first-time buyer there puts down around £124,688. In Scotland, the average is closer to £30,551. That's almost 4 times less. It's amazing how dramatically the cost of buying your first home can change simply by changing your postcode. But the next fact is one many families still don't know. There's a government savings scheme called the Lifetime ISA. If you're under 40, you can save up to $4,000 a year, and the government adds a 25% bonus, worth up to $1,000 every year. Think about that. How often does the government voluntarily add money to your savings? If you're a parent or grandparent, simply telling a younger family member about this account could make a real difference to their future. But if you think that's generous, wait until you hear what happens in America. Because the minimum deposit there is even smaller. And for some people, it disappears completely.
Let's cross the Atlantic. If you've heard of an FHA loan, you probably know it's one of the most popular ways for first-time buyers to get onto the property ladder. But here's what surprises most people. With a credit score of 580 or higher, buyers can qualify with a deposit of just 3.5%. If their score falls between 500 and 579, they'll usually need 10% instead. Now, here's the fact that made me check the source twice before I believed it. Some Americans don't need a deposit at all. If you're a veteran or currently serving in the military, a VA loan can allow you to buy a home with 0% down. Zero. And certain buyers purchasing homes in eligible rural or suburban areas can also qualify for USDA loans, which may require no down payment either. It almost sounds too good to be true, but these are real government-backed programs. Of course, not everyone chooses the minimum. In 2025, the average first-time buyer in America put down about 9%, the highest average since 1997. Today's typical first-time buyer is around 38 years old, earning roughly $97,000 a year as a household. It seems buying a first home is happening later in life than it did a generation ago.
Let's see if you've been paying attention. Which American loan can allow eligible buyers to purchase a home with no deposit at all? A. FHA loan. B. Conventional loan. C. VA loan. Take a guess. The answer is C, the VA loan. If you got that right, congratulations. But here's something most people don't realize. Buying with a small deposit can sometimes come with a hidden cost. And unless someone explains it clearly, it can catch first-time buyers completely by surprise.
So what's the hidden cost I mentioned?
In the United States, if you buy a home with less than a 20% down payment on many conventional loans, you'll usually pay something called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. Now, despite the name, this insurance doesn't protect you. It protects the lender if you can't keep up with your mortgage payments. That catches a lot of people by surprise. Depending on your loan, PMI typically costs around 0.5% to 1.5% of the loan amount each year. On a $350,000 mortgage, that could mean roughly $145 to $437 every month. Here's the good news. Once you've built enough equity to own about 20% of your home, PMI on many conventional loans can usually be removed. However, there's one important exception. With FHA loans, if your down payment is less than 10%, the mortgage insurance can remain for the life of the loan. Now, let's compare that with the UK. Britain doesn't usually charge a separate insurance fee like PMI. Instead, lenders often build the extra risk into your mortgage by offering a higher interest rate when your deposit is small. Different systems, same idea. The smaller your deposit, the more expensive borrowing can become. So the real question isn't just, can I afford the deposit? It's also, what will this loan cost me over the next 20 or 30 years?
Now for some encouraging news. Many people assume they're completely on their own when buying their first home. In reality, both countries offer more help than most people realize, but in very different ways. In the United States, there are currently 2,624 down payment assistance programs across the country. On average, they provide around $18,000 to eligible buyers. That's enough to completely change the maths for many families. The challenge isn't that the help doesn't exist, it's that many people never think to look for it. Now let's cross back to Britain. The biggest helping hand there often comes from somewhere much closer to home: family. Around 52% of first-time buyers in the UK receive financial help from parents or grandparents. More than half. Whether it's helping with a deposit, covering legal costs, or giving a small financial boost, family support has become one of the biggest reasons many young people manage to buy their first home. Different countries, different approaches, but the same goal: helping someone finally walk through the front door of a place they can call home.
Let's see if you remember this one. Roughly what percentage of first-time buyers in the UK receive financial help from family? A, 15%, B, 33%, C, 52%. If you chose C, you're absolutely right. More than 1 out of every 2 first-time buyers receives help from family. That's a much bigger number than most people expect. After everything we've covered today, one lesson stands out above all the others. Don't let the old 20% deposit myth stop you from exploring your options. If you're in the United States, an FHA loan may require as little as 3.5%, while eligible veterans and service members may qualify for 0% down through a VA loan. And before giving up, it's always worth checking whether local down payment assistance programs are available. If you're in the UK, many buyers can begin with 5%, although saving a little more may unlock better mortgage rates. And if you have children or grandchildren under 40, a lifetime ISA could give their savings a valuable boost thanks to the government's 25% bonus. But here's the advice experienced homeowners repeat again and again. Don't empty your savings account just to buy the house. Leave yourself an emergency cushion. Because homes have an uncanny ability to surprise you. A boiler stops working. A roof suddenly needs repairs. Or an appliance decides it's the perfect time to retire. Owning a home feels much less stressful when you have a little money set aside for life's unexpected moments. So what have we learned? The biggest myth about buying your first home isn't that houses are expensive. It's that millions of people still believe they must save a 20% deposit before they can even begin. For many buyers, that simply isn't true anymore. Whether you're planning to buy yourself, helping your children, or supporting your grandchildren, understanding the real rules can open doors that once seemed firmly closed. If this video helped clear up some of the confusion, I'd love to know which fact surprised you the most. Let me know in the comments.